Here's a question your bank doesn't want you to ask. Did your savings account grow faster than inflation last year? Because if it didn't, and for most people it absolutely did not, then you got poorer, silently, legally, and your bank called it safe savings.
Today, I'm going to show you exactly what this invisible tax is, how much it has already cost you, and the 3 moves that let you opt out of it permanently. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing in this video constitutes financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. Always consult a qualified and licensed financial professional before making any decisions about your money. Past market performance, including historical S&P 500 returns, does not guarantee future results. All interest rates and inflation figures are current as of the date of publication and subject to change. Let's start with the problem. The average interest rate on a standard savings account at America's biggest banks, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, is 0.01% per year. That's 1 cent for every $100. Meanwhile, U.S. inflation has averaged approximately 3% annually over the past decade, based on Consumer Price Index data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and recent readings have gone significantly higher, hitting 3.8% in April 2026. That gap between what your money earns and what inflation erodes, that is the invisible tax. No bill, no notice, no receipt. Just a quiet daily drain on everything you've worked to save.
Here's the math on a real example. Say you have $10,000 sitting in a standard savings account. After 1 full year at 0.01%, you've earned exactly $1. $1. Meanwhile, inflation at 3% has cost you roughly $300 in purchasing power. Your account shows $10,001, but in real terms, in what that money can actually buy, you now hold the equivalent of about $9,700. You spent nothing. You made no bad decision. You sat perfectly still and lost nearly $300 of real wealth. Stretch that over 10 years. $10,000 at 0 real return with 3% inflation compounding against you leaves you holding roughly $7,400 in today's purchasing power. That is $2,600 erased, not from risk, not from volatility, but from doing exactly what every bank advertisement since your childhood told you to do. Keep your money safe. But here's the part I really need you to pay attention to, because most people stop the analysis here and completely miss the deeper problem. There is a second layer of loss that makes the invisible tax even more devastating. Economists call it opportunity cost. Every dollar sitting in a 0.01% account is a dollar that could have been compounding somewhere else. The invisible tax doesn't just erode your purchasing power, it steals your future wealth, silently, year after year. Here is the number that changes the picture entirely. If that same $10,000 had been invested in a diversified index fund tracking the S&P 500 over the last 20 years, it would have grown to approximately $67,000. That figure is based on the S&P 500's historical annualized total return of approximately 10% over that period, with dividends reinvested. Not from picking stocks, not from timing the market, not from anything complicated, just from owning a broad slice of the U.S. economy and letting 2 decades of compound growth work. So the real cost of the invisible tax is not $300 a year. It is the difference between $10,000 and $67,000. It is $57,000 of future wealth that never existed because of where the money sat. The rule of 72 shows you exactly how brutal this math really is. Divide 72 by your annual return, and you get the number of years until your money doubles. At 0.01%, the rate the major banks actually pay, your money doubles every 7,200 years. At 7% average market return, your money doubles every 10 years. In a single working lifetime, that's 5 doublings. The invisible tax doesn't just slow your growth, it keeps you in a completely different mathematical universe. Now, if this math is so obvious, why do most people stay in these accounts? Because of 3 psychological traps that are built into the way we think about money. Trap 1, the illusion of safety. When a number on a screen doesn't go down, it feels safe. We evolved to avoid visible losses. But a number that stays the same while everything around it gets more expensive is not safety. It is a slow, painless decline that never triggers our threat response. Trap 2. Financial anxiety. Most people were never taught how money actually works. When something feels complex or technical, the brain defaults to inaction. And inaction is exactly what the invisible tax needs to keep collecting from you. Trap 3. Short-term thinking. Inflation does not arrive with a headline. It compounds quietly for years. By the time you feel it, at the grocery store, at the pump, at the rent renewal, you're already years into the loss. Compounding losses are just as powerful as compounding gains. They just work in the wrong direction. So what do you actually do? 3 moves. None require expertise, none require large amounts of money, and all 3 are available to you today. Move 1. Move your short-term cash to a high-yield savings account. As of June 2026, the top online banks are offering up to 5.0% APY, with most competitive accounts in the 3.5 to 4.5% range, all FDIC insured and fully liquid. Compare that to 0.01% at a traditional bank. The account works exactly the same way. It has the same government insurance, the money is still accessible the same day. The only difference is that it earns hundreds of times more interest. There is no good reason to stay in a 0.01% account if you have an alternative. This is the single easiest swap in personal finance.
Move 2. Start investing in a diversified, low-cost index fund. You do not need to pick stocks. You do not need to watch charts or understand quarterly earnings. You simply buy and hold a total market or S&P 500 index fund inside a tax-advantaged account, a Roth IRA, a 401k, or a traditional IRA, and let time do the work. Even $50 or $100 a month, started today, becomes a meaningful sum in a decade. Money that is growing at 7 to 10% annually is not paying the invisible tax. Money that earns 0.01% is paying it in full. Every year of delay is another year the tax collects. Move 3. Automate everything. The reason most people do not take these 2 steps is not a lack of information. It is that life is busy, and the brain is wired to spend what it sees. The solution is to make the right move automatic. Set up an automatic transfer to your high-yield account on every payday. Set up an automatic monthly investment into your index fund. When the money moves before you see it, the decision is already made. You stop depending on discipline, which runs out, and start depending on systems, which do not. Systems win. Here is the bottom line. The invisible tax is real. It is running right now. It requires only one thing to keep collecting from you: your inaction. Unlike income tax or sales tax, you can legally opt out of it. Not by cheating the system, by understanding it. By choosing to put your money in places that work for you rather than against you. Your money should work as hard as you do. Every year it doesn't, the invisible tax wins. If you want a deeper breakdown of any one of these 3 moves, high-yield accounts, index fund investing, or automating your finances, tell me in the comments, and I'll do a dedicated video on it. And if this video shifted how you think about your savings, share it with someone who needs to see the math. Thanks for watching.